The humble Nuzlocke. Taking something as simple as Pokemon and cranking up the difficulty for no other reason than to suffer, find some challenge in an otherwise relatively easy series of games. Sure, not every game has to be Dark Souls, but it's nice to persevere and find difficulty in something you hold near and dear to your heart. Now, about 6 months ago, give or take, I made a video documenting my first ever attempt at a Nuzlocke, which was a playthrough of Soul Silver. Check that out if you haven't already. It was fun. I had a good time and an overall positive experience, even with a few hiccups along the way. We managed to close it out first try, and I noted at the end of that video that I understand why folks use hardcore rules. There are a few times in that Nuzlocke where it didn't feel that much different to a regular playthrough, once we had gotten the ball rolling and accumulated a strong team. Now, that may be due to the awful level curve of the Johto games, sure, but I thought we could step it up a notch for round 2. Now, when it comes to Nuzlocke rules, you probably know the drill by now, but a hardcore Nuzlocke ups the ante by adding a few more challenges. You must play through the game on set mode, you can't use items in battle, and your Pokemon's level is capped at the same level as the next gym leader's ace Pokemon. Oh, and also, we'll only be using Electric-type Pokemon this time round. If you're gonna make it hard, you might as well just make it really hard. So now we need to pick a game to start this run in, and well, it's actually a significantly narrower pool than you might think. I'm going to go with Pokemon Shield, since it simply has the most variety of electric types, because apparently electric types are actually pretty uncommon. So with our game chosen, there was but a quick rule tweak left to consider. The encounters of this Nuzlocke would be different because we simply wouldn't have an electric type encounter in every route. So I decided it would work like this. I would get one try at an encounter in each of the electric type evolutionary lines in the game, effectively substituting them for routes. For example, if I encounter a Joltik and fail it, I don't get another try at a Galvantula in a later route. This would also mean that I can catch multiple Pokemon in a single route, if there are several electric types present, which I think is fair considering the amount of areas that will be skipped through the playthrough. Alright, intro stuff down, so it is time. You came here to see encounters, battles, and tragic losses, and I'm here to give them to you. I am Peak Ginge, and let's Nuzlocke, baby. We kick off our adventure by watching Chairman Rose move his lips while no sound comes out of his mouth, and we snatch up our hat and bag and step out into the Galar region, and actually, now that I think about it, the first 2 to 3 hours of the 8th gen games are a bit of a drag, so how about I save us all some time and just go over the important stuff. After picking up our fake starter, we found our real starter on Route 2, our beautiful baby boy, Yamper. We captured him without much trouble, named him Toaster because I decided to have a bit more of a coherent naming convention compared to my last Nuzlocke, and I would be naming everything after some form of appliance. I quickly backtracked to Route 1 as we had another encounter to secure now that we finally had our starter. After some wandering around, we stumbled upon a Grubbin. Now, Grubbin itself isn't an electric type, however, its evolutions are, and as such, I was allowing it as an encounter, on the condition that it was never used until it evolved, only leveling via experience share and candies. Grubbin was affectionately named Microwave. We took out Hop for the second time already with our lone Yamper, barely, and we were off to the wild area. Stepping off the train, there is a particular NPC within the station that will give us a lovely little gift. And by little, I of course mean thick as fuck, baby, because we got ourselves a Gigantamax Pikachu. And we named him Lamp. Now yes, there's probably a better case for just getting a normal Pikachu a bit later on so that it can be a Raichu, which is probably a better choice than GMAX Pikachu in the long run, but hey, I'm a sucker for the chonk. What can I say? From here, it was just a little bit of grinding so we were ready for the next hot battle, and on to Motorstoke. I went ahead and did all the gym, challenge, register stuff, and on our way out of town, we had a relatively uneventful battle with Hop before heading on to Route 3. Route 3 was pretty chill. A few trainer battles here and there, but no encounters for us here, so this round is dead to me. Galamine had me scared for a bit as there was a couple of trainers with ground types such as Diglett and Drillbur, but turns out they don't know any ground moves, so we're good, we're fine, it's fine. We swung around the corner, and there was Bede. Just standing there.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
Now, I didn't recall Bede being particularly difficult, so the plan was to just use Bite on Yamper to run through all of his psychic types, with Pikachu as backup should things go wrong. Now, Bede's team consists of Solosis, Gothita, and Hatenna. So with minimal prep, we stepped forward, accepted his challenge, and... oh no. Oh crap, oh, this is bad. So yeah, Bede managed to attack through every paralysis, whilst also getting the 10% confusion on my Yamper and Pikachu multiple times, who proceeded to then beat themselves to death. And since Grubbin wasn't yet an electric type and was neither trained up nor allowed to help us out, we actually wiped to Bede. Bruh. Alright, so my first Nuzlocke wipe. Feels bad, man. Didn't even make it to the first gym, but we take those L's, we learn from them. So, let's restart, shall we? Rose, Wooloo, Leon, Starter, Dog, Sonia, Pokemon Center, Leon, Wooloo, Yamper, Grubbin, Professor's House, Hop, Pikachu, Wild Area, Motorstoke, Registration, Team Yell, Rose, Hop, Route 3, Galar Mine. Whew, okay, we made it back. One important change though, due to some lucky weather in the wild area, we now had an Electrike before Bead, named Hairdryer, which was certainly going to help us out. So it was Bead time once again. We were much better prepared this time around, with Yamper, Pikachu, and Electrike all being adequately leveled. I also found out that Pikachu can learn Nasty Plot if you go and speak to the move remembering fella at the Pokemon Centers. Not sure if it's just G-Max Pikachu, but that was a pretty wild find. So it was Nasty Plot and Electro Ball time against Bead, which won us the battle pretty convincingly. Now that we were finally free of the Galar Mine, it was onwards to Route 4. After dodging far too many Electrike, we wandered into the grass and found ourselves a cute little bug fella. A quick battle and a few Pokeballs later, and Joltik was ours, and we named it Laptop. We had some story beats to hit and a few levels to gain, but we were just about ready to finally take on our first gym. Like, 5 hours in. Whew boy. We had an unavoidable gym trainer to deal with, but he was a pushover, so no troubles there. We herded the crap out of some Wooloos, and it was time to take on Milo. Now, as I mentioned earlier, a HARDCORE Nuzlocke has the implementation of level caps. Now, luckily for us, the first level cap before going up against Milo is a nice clean level 20. And do you know what happens at level 20? That's right, Grubbin evolves into Charjabug. We could finally use Microwave in battle, and well, given her stats and bug typing, she was going to be the star of the show for this gym. Equipped with the Citrus Berry, Microwave led our party into battle, and Bug Bite made quick work of Gossifleur, and since Milo only has 2 Pokemon, we were on to the ace. Eldegoss versus Charjabug. 2 absolute titans facing off for the first time. With our first Dynamax of the run, Microwave unleashed Max Flutterby, and Eldegoss didn't stand a chance. The grass badge was ours. The squad was looking pretty strong, and with a water gym on the horizon, I was feeling pretty good. With Turffield behind us, we made our way towards Hullbury via Route 5, where we had a quick decision to make. In the daycare, you can get a gift Toxel, which, wouldn't you know it, is an electric type. Now, this isn't the only Toxel in the game, they can be found later in the wild. And this one's level 1, so I ultimately decided to skip it, and save the Toxel encounter, since Toxel is basically useless in battle until it evolves. Continuing on, we scored the Rotom-Bike, and Hop was ready for round 4. God damn. You verse Hop a lot in these games. He had a few evolutions now, but ultimately his team is just too weak to electric moves to really be much of a challenge. With Hop out of the way, we arrived at Hullbury. Here we met Oleana and Rose with his awful fashion sense, and we actually had another encounter right here in town. Down at the pier in Hullbury, you can fish, and there happens to be a very special Pokemon available in these fishing spots. One that would prove to be very useful later in the run. Chinchou. The one we fished up also happened to be level 24, which was our next level cap, so that was a nice surprise as well. Chinchou actually proved to be really hard to catch, and I thought we were going to either run out of Pokeballs or lose a Pokemon to it, but after a lot of switching back and forth, Dishwasher was finally ours. We went and found Nessa chilling by the lighthouse, and it was time for gym number 2. I finally solved the children's puzzle in the children's game, which I had already solved in the past a few times, so of course I was really good at it, and definitely didn't take ages to finish it, and we were ready to take on Nessa. Given that this was a water gym, pretty much any of my Pokemon could probably hold their own, and even though Dreadnought is a rock type, it doesn't have any rock moves, so even Joltik and Charjabug should be fine. Ultimately, I opted to just Nasty Plot Pikachu my way to victory, and it went just about how you would expect. 2 badges down, 6 to go. With that out of the way, Kabu was our next gym leader to take down, giving us a level cap of 27. The good thing about this was that several of our Pokemon evolved by level 27, specifically Yamper into Bolton, Electrike into Manectric, and Chinchou into Lantern, giving us a significant power spike. Into Galar Mine 2 we go. Now, apparently B just really likes hanging out in mines, because I've barely stepped into it and he's already trash-talking me. Honestly, I completely forgot about this fight and ended up leading with Chinchou by mistake, almost killing him, but a quick switch into Charjabug set the record straight, and she just kind of one-shot all of his Pokemon. So with Bede thoroughly ruined, there was a few mandatory trainers, including one with the Carkol and another with a Drillbur and Onix, which would have been potentially problematic if it wasn't for Dishwasher. Turns out that having a water type on this team is really doing us wonders already. Next up was the first Marnie fight. Hairdryer took a bit of a beating from Krogunk and Scraggy, but ultimately came out on top, and it was time for Morpeko, Galar's Pikachu clone. Now, lucky for us, it's part Dark type, which means we can take it down with some bug moves. Well, that was my thought process anyway. We switched into Charjabug, took a bite and switch, and then took another bite which flinched us, and all of a sudden, we were at like 30 HP and in a pretty bad spot. I ultimately made the unwise decision of not playing around the crit and going for the bug bite anyway, which could have ended very badly, but luckily did not. Reckless play for the win. From here I went and switched into Bolton because Morpeko was low and Bolton is really fast. We took out Morpeko and Marnie was down, and all I could think about was, holy crap, I really want a Morpeko now because that thing is really strong. With Marnie out of the way, it was gym time, baby. We breezed through the gym challenge with Chinchou, and we were ready to face Kabu. The plan was pretty simple. Evolve Chinchou and do the whole gym with Lantern. Kabu's team is pretty stacked, having Ninetales, Arcanine, and G-Max Centiskorch, but Lantern was ready to hold his own. We took Ninetales down, taking a bit of damage in the process, got burnt and intimidated by Arcanine, but lucky for me, I wasn't a physical attacker, and it was time to take on Kabu's ace, Centiskorch. Max Flutterby didn't tickle, but a couple of Max Geysers later, and the fire badge was ours. So with the first portion of the game out of the way, we had a few story beats to hit and cutscenes to watch, which I'll largely skip over. The main things of note are that Hop gets rolled by Bead, we murdered a bunch of Noctowl for levels, and I found a Thunderstone so we could evolve Chargebug into Vikavolt. Microwave was now complete. Continuing on to Hammerlock and then Route 6, we finally have ourselves a new encounter in Helioptile. Right after we get past this trainer that has just a Clefairy and a Clefable that only know Metronome. Awesome. One explosionless fight later, and we encountered our new friend. I was excited about Helioptile, as I have fond memories of using Heliolisk in Pokemon Y. So, the battle began. The sun is beating down on us and... oh dear God, no. Helioptile, despite living in the desert, has the ability dry skin, meaning it just dies when in intense sun. As panic set in, I just started yeeting great balls at it as it just cooked to death before my very eyes. We almost got it a few times, but ultimately, its stubbornness was its downfall, and we failed the Helioptile encounter. That stung a little bit, not gonna lie, but life goes on, and we had to get to Gym 4, where Alistair was waiting for us. Speaking of life going on, our next struggle was not too far off though, as we were forced to go up against Artist Duncan, a mandatory fight right before Stow-on-Side. Hairdryer had a coughing explode in his face, which he survived, but was then promptly beaten to death by a Sodawooder. Rest in peace, Hairdryer. I'm glad you had a chance to shine against Marnie before you left us. So we continued on to Stow-on-Side, laid Hairdryer to rest, and geared ourselves for yet another battle with Hop. At this stage, Hop starts having different teams like every time you fight him because he's trying out new comps and whatnot from a story perspective, which is neat, but this squad is just not it, bro. Heading into the gym, I kept my team below the level cap of 36 as there are quite a few mandatory trainers to get through before stepping out into the arena to face Alistair. Which was, interesting? With our team armed and ready to go, the battle began. Alistair leads with Yamask, a relatively weak mon, so I was leading with Bolton. Bolton made quick work of Yamask, however, I failed to realize that it has the Wandering Spirit ability, which overrides Strongjaw. Alistair's next Pokemon is then Mimikyu, a Fairy Ghost type, which makes Crunch even worse, as it isn't super effective. Bolton did manage to take down Mimikyu, but not before its attack was lowered. We honestly needed to switch, but I stupidly kept Bolton in, hoping that the extra power from Max Darkness would be enough to take out Alistair's Cursola. It wasn't. But Cursola did go ahead and curse itself to death, so I wasn't yet being punished for playing like crap. Then came out Alistair's ace, Gengar. I opted to Max Darkness once more to gauge how much it would hit Gengar for, and the answer was not very much. Basically, we needed to switch Bolton out and in, preferably a clean switch, and, well, Pikachu was the weak link and would just get worse as we went further on. So, with a heavy heart, I sent out Lamp, who took the full force of Gengar's G-Max Terror. Poor fella didn't see it coming. I then misclicked and sent out Lantern instead of Bolton, but ultimately Dishwasher had the defenses and health to tough it out and take Gengar down. God, what a mess of a fight. But it was over. The Ghost Badge was ours. Hey, you guys remember how I messed up a fair bit in that Ghost Gym? Yeah, that was pretty funny, hey. Yeah, well, get this right, it doesn't end there. So apparently at this point I had some sort of bead PTSD from our first wipe, and I did not want to get blindsided by a battle with him, which I knew was coming up, but just not when it was coming up. So before I saved because I needed my switch for something else, I went ahead and leveled up Bolton and Vikavolt to be prepared to just sweep bead. Only that I thought the next level cap was 39, not 38, and as such, I overleveled Vikavolt by mistake. Now, I didn't notice straight away, so I went ahead and saved. I said my final goodbye to Lamp the Pikachu before going up to the mural and wiping the floor with B, just absolutely ruining him as intended, just completely wrecked him. Following this fight, there's the whole cutscene where B gets wrecked by Rose, and during this was when I realized what I had done. Now, technically, this is a rule break, but it was an honest mistake. I would have beaten Beat anyway, and I could just have left that out of the video, but I think the honesty is the key to good content, so here I am, bearing all. I screwed up, and as such, Microwave the Vikavolt was boxed until such a time where she was no longer overleveled. We went ahead and evolved Laptop into a Galvantula, and our adventure took us all the way through the Glimwood Tangle to Bologna, which is probably my favourite of the Galar towns. Now, Given our recent misfortune, this was going to be a little trickier than expected. I had to simultaneously make it through the gym challenge without Vikavolt, without losing any Pokemon because I only had a total of 4 left at this point, and without Bolton because all of the gym battles are consecutive in this gym, and I didn't want Bolton to overleveling as well. So, I had to come up with a strategy. Now, given that these battles are consecutive, I basically need to be able to survive 6 Pokemon straight, otherwise we would just get whittled away bit by bit, losing a mon in the process. The solution to this problem? Well, it was none other than Dishwasher the Lantern, of course. All of the gym challenge Pokemon besides Morgrem are special attackers, meaning that if we can be bulky on the special defense side, then we should be good to go. And wouldn't you know it, Lantern just so happens to learn Amnesia. I also stacked him up with leftovers and Aqua Ring to keep him healthy across multiple battles, and we made our way to the Bologna gym. The plan actually worked this time around, a welcome surprise. We even managed to confuse Haxton Burn Morgan to prevent any serious physical damage coming our way, and took down all 3 of the gym trainers using Lantern alone. Good stuff. Now it was time to take on Opal. Opal leads with Weezing, and we sent out Lantern. Weezing got a poison straight away with Sludge because, of course it did. It's fine though, we have some good passive healing, but Lantern was certainly on a clock. The buffs that come from Opal's questions certainly helped me get through this one, but Weezing and Mawile went down pretty easily. Then came Togekiss. Now, Togekiss is pretty tough, so I figured my best bet was to Dynamax early to take it down quickly, but Max Geyser wasn't doing as much as I thought it would, hitting for less than half. This would be a problem if Max Geyser didn't set up Rain to buff water moves, but it does, so happy days. Next was our Creamy, and Dishwasher toughed it out and took it down like a champ. And so, we're at our 5th gym badge thanks to Dishwasher the Lantern. Our next destination would be Sirchester for our battle with Melanie, but before that, we had some encounters to get. Now, some of you may have been thinking back on Route 6, why doesn't he grab a fossil? 2 of them are electric types, and yes, you would be correct. The only issue is that I am playing on Pokemon Shield, and the bird fossil is significantly less common on Shield. Up until now, I had been taking a trip to the Digging Brothers to try my luck whenever I had some spare watts, so it took a while, but I finally got lucky and dug up a bird fossil. So I made the trip back to Karalis, and just like that, we had ourselves a Dracozolt. Now, why did I pick Dracozolt over Arctozolt? Well, the ice type kind of sucks. Yeah, it would have been pretty good against ground types, but I think overall, the dragon type is just more useful. From there, we headed east of Hammerlock to Route 7, where 2 more encounters awaited us in the form of Morpeko and Toxel. Having learned from the Helioptile incident, I prepared properly this time, and without incident, caught Nutribullet and Amp. This was an excellent example of why holding off on Toxel was a good idea, because with just 1 quick level up, we had ourselves a Toxtricity. From here we headed north to Sirchester, where we had yet another encounter available, Togedemaru. I was excited about Togedemaru because the steel type was just really good, and we had an ice gym coming up, but then I found out it doesn't actually learn any steel type moves by level up, so he would be boxed for now, but don't worry, TV's time will come. We arrived at Sirchester and it was time to take on Melanie. The gym challenge was pretty smooth because I obviously remembered where all of the holes were. Alright, I used a map, sue me. But we took down the mandatory gym challenges with ease and stepped out into the stadium. The plan was to mainly use Bolton and Lantern for this fight because Bolton was running Firefang with Strongjaw, and Lantern had the water typing and electric to resist and take down Lapras. Melanie leads with Frostmoth, which basically explodes if someone strikes a match within its general vicinity, so Bolton made quick work of it. Then came Darmanitan. Now, I just assumed it was guerrilla tactics since I hadn't actually played through Shield before, but no, we dropped it below half health and it changed into Zen mode. Luckily though, we taught Dig to Bolton earlier and took it down without any issue. Next was Ice-Q, and I genuinely don't think I have versed an Ice-Q before in my life, so I actually had no idea how its ability worked. We broke the Ice Face and got a lucky burn, but Ice-Q just used Hail and reset it straight away. This wasn't going to get us very far, so I had to switch into Vikavolt and brought it low. I then pivoted into Togedemaru and then Lantern, so that the burn could finish it off, and I would already have Lantern in for when Lapras came out. Lantern did eat a freeze dry in the process, but otherwise smooth sailing. With Lapras up next, a quick Dynamax and a couple of Max Lightnings later, and we were clear of the 6th gym with the Ice Badge in hand. With Melanie behind us, our next step was Spikemuth to take on the next gym. But before the next hot battle though, we had a few more encounters, one new and one that I realized I missed ages ago, and so we now had Vacuum the Pincurchin and Coffee Maker the Eevee, which would eventually become a Jolteon. We took down Hot with little issues, scored a bike upgrade so we could ride on water, and sped through Route 9 and arrived at Spikemuth, which was closed, apparently. Marnie showed us a way in, but not without a quick battle. A battle that, could have gone better. For those of you that have seen my first Nuzlocke video, you'll remember that I lost Tentacular the Tentacle because I forgot it was part poison, and thus weak to ground. Yeah, similar situation here. While taking on Marnie, I used Morpeko to take out Liepard because he knew Brick Break. Marnie then went into Scrafty. I then completely forgot Morpeko was Dark-type, which is ironic because I just reminded you it was Dark-type before, and despite it being the signature Pokemon of the Dark-type specialist we were at this very moment battling. And well, you can see where this is going. A Brick Break from Scrafty and Nutribullet was no more, all because of a quick lapse in judgment. Speaking of lapses in judgment, remember Laptop the Galvantula? Bug Electric type, pretty strong, good Pokemon overall. Yeah, I brought him into the team for this gym because, well, it was a Dark-type gym, and I forgot to update his moves, so his only Bug-type attack was Leech Life. This in itself wasn't a big problem. Galvantula still has, like, okay attack, but not okay enough. The first gym trainer was Linoon. We, of course, went for Leech Life, which it barely survived. It then, of course, had Counter. Poor Laptop. Lost, but never forgotten. So, that sucked, but the show must go on. We navigated the gym much more carefully moving forward and eventually made it to Piers. Piers? Pierre? I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm just going to go with Piers. Anyway, he leaves with Scrafty, a Pokemon I am now terrified of, but Vikavolt is pretty well suited to deal with it. Then next is Malamar, another Pokemon that Vikavolt took down pretty handily. Now, Piers is a bit different from other gym leaders, and as you may know, doesn't use Dynamax. This means that his ace, Obstagoon, doesn't need to be his final Pokemon, and well, it wasn't. Vikavolt is pretty beat up at this point, so I needed to switch her out. I brought in Toxtricity, which was probably a bad call because Obstagoon knows Throat Chop, but we got off a Toxic and a Venoshock before Toxtricity needed to switch as well. I brought in Pincurchin, who I essentially thought would just be switch fodder, but to my surprise, and with a little help from a Citrus Berry and Recovery, she managed to outlast Obstagoon. Piers then sent out Skuntank, which Vacuum held her own against for a while, but when the Toxic and Screeches began stacking up, she needed to switch as well. We went into Togedemaru and took down Skuntank, and just like that, we had 7 badges. One more to go. So from there, some story stuff happens, and there's apparently some cool kaiju battles, but the game refuses to show them to me, instead just opting to show me a news headline on my phone, so that sucks, but we were basically straight into the next gym. While Raihan is called the Dragon Master or whatever, he should instead be called the Weather Master because that's what his gym is all about. The gym traders were relatively easy, though each of them being double battles was a little bit spooky, and then it was time for Raihan. Now, I'll be honest, Raihan had me scared, mainly because he's got some pretty strong ground types on his team and just a generally tough squad to go up against, particularly in a double battle setting. With that in mind though, we itemized appropriately and stepped into the stadium. First up, it was Gigalith and Flygon against Lantern and Togedemaru. Now, you may be thinking Togedemaru is a bad pick, what with the whole 4 times weak to ground thing, but we had a plan. Since Gigalith is so slow, we planned to quickly take it out before it could get any attacks off, and Flygon doesn't actually have any ground-type moves to hit Togedemaru with. Now, Gigalith is also really tough, so that plan didn't go as smoothly, but turn 2 saw Gigalith go down without any serious punishment. A quick Confuse Ray onto Flygon also gave us a chance for some free damage as well. Now comes Sandaconda. I pivoted into Vikavolt to avoid the ground attack with Levitate, but she still took quite a beating. With Sandaconda down, it was time for G-Max Duraludon, something I was very scared of. Given Vikavolt's health, I figured she was prime target for Raihan to try and take down, so I once again switched into Pincurchin, expecting it to die instantly, but she once again held on. It was now 2v1, so it was simply a matter of outlasting the G-Max timer with switches, before bringing out Dragozolt for his first chance to shine. We had done it. 8 badges against all odds and all with our trusty Electric-type Pokemon. Only the championship battle stood in our way now. Now onto the final section of the game, which is actually longer than I remember it being. We had a lot of battles on the horizon, a lot of difficult, mandatory battles, so I'll keep it short and sweet where I can, but they weren't going to win themselves, so it was off to Route 10. Now, there's a few of those battles here, including one with a Rhyhorn, but we managed. It's fine, it's cool, it's fine, we're good. We stepped out over the horizon of Route 10, and there it was. Winden. Winden? London? With not a whole lot left to do but take on the finals, we made our way to Winden Stadium, where we would face off against Marnie for the final time. Now, if you'll recall, our previous battles with Marnie were not the best, but I wasn't going to let that happen again. Microwave did a lot of the heavy lifting in this one, so it was pretty uneventful taking down everything except Toxicroak. And well, Toxicroak doesn't actually have a fighting type move, which meant that Togedemaru was best suited for taking it down. So with Marnie out of the way, it was now time to crush Hopstreams as well. Vikavolt once again led the charge, taking down Double and even Snorlax despite its special bulk. We went into Togedemaru for Corviknight and Pincurchin since neither of them really had an answer for it, and then came Inteleon. Inteleon Dynamaxed, and since it knew a ground type move which it was guaranteed to use against Togedemaru, we once again switched into Vikavolt to avoid it. From here we went into Lantern to tank Max Geyser and Dynamaxed him to take on Inteleon. Given that water doesn't resist ground, Inteleon went for Max Quake, dealing a decent chunk to Lantern. As Inteleon's Dynamax ran out, I figured Lantern would take the next hit with ease before dealing the final blow, and, well... Oh, shut up, Hop. Always play around the crit. I suppose I should have calced it, but this one hurt. A lot. Dishwasher had easily been one of the MVPs of this run so far, taking down the 3rd and 5th gym basically entirely by itself. And he was set to be a very important Pokemon in the final battle against Leon because he has 2 fire types. But it seems it was just not meant to be. With Hop's dreams and my soul thoroughly crushed, we advanced to the next round with our remaining squad. Before these battles though, we had to do all of this weird macrocosmos stuff that makes like 0 sense at all, including Piers' really awful wordless singing, but that all went off without a hitch. The Oleana fight was a little bit dicey, mainly because I only had 5 Pokemon because I accidentally brought Dishwasher's corpse along for the ride, but we managed without any further casualties. Rose has his little end of the world chat with Leon, and it was back to the stadium with us. As we geared up for the fight with Nessa, Stupid Bede rudely interrupts and challenges me once more, a challenge we gladly accept. Togedemaru was our star of this battle, with Iron Tail smashing its way through Bede's team, but by the time Hatterene rolled around, she had taken a few hits and likely would not survive any more attacks. We waited out the G-Max by using Max Guard, a switch into Dracozolt to take a Max Flare, and a switch into Toxtricity to take a Max Smite. But we weren't out of the woods yet. Hatterene hits hard, and we needed a clean switch into Vikavolt, who knew Flash Cannon. So, for one final time, out went Vacuum the Pincurchin to face her destiny. She fought valiantly and ultimately gave her life so that we could succeed, and for that, I thank her. With a couple of Flash Cannons, Hatterene went down and Bede was done. We laid Vacuum to rest and recruited Eevee, who needed to be leveled and evolved into Jolteon. Next up was our rematch with Nessa, and well, it also went just about how you would expect, given that she's a Water-type specialist and I was essentially an Electric-type specialist. And whilst the tailwind behind Dreadnought certainly made it a bit trickier, we came out on top. Then it was on to Alistair. The Alistair fight went pretty well. Nothing major of import. Nothing at all. Not a single thing happened. Oh, right. Except for... Yeah, okay, look, that certainly sucked, and I know Jolteon is actually a really good Pokemon, and I probably should have had one for the whole run, but I didn't, and well, it was just as well because I would have been a lot sadder when it met its fate at the hands of a nasty plotted poltergeist, but life goes on. With Alistair taken care of, we were in a bit of a rough spot. We had 3 major battles left to get past: Raihan, Rose, and Leon. We were also just losing Pokemon left and right ever since we stepped foot into this goddamn stadium, and really could not afford to keep doing that, so we needed a plan. Now, I thought at this point we had every encounter possible, and we had captured each available electric Pokemon, with the exception of Helioptile, of course, but we don't talk about that here. But there was one Pokemon left to obtain, and it was a very powerful Pokemon at that. With a bit of luck, the weather was on our side, and we made our way to the Lake of Outrage, where we would find none other than Rotom. We captured it, named it Moda because, well, Rotom's name is already Moda, just backwards, and we had an excellent Pokemon to round out our squad. We went and got ourselves the Rotom catalog so that Moda could change forms and began to plan for Raihan. Now, I'm not joking when I say that this is the single battle that I have prepared the most for in any Pokemon game I have ever played in my entire life. I wanted it to go as smooth as possible, and I wanted to try and do the whole thing with just Rotom Wash. Hell, I even EV trained the damn thing, spent all of my hard-earned cash and everything. Now, heading into this Raihan fight, we knew a few things. 1, his team consists of Torkoal, Goodra, Turtonator, Flygon, and Duraludon. 2, apart from Solar Beam on Torkoal, he had no super effective damage against Rotom. And 3, he has a bunch of set-up weather moves we could take advantage of. What I didn't know though was the order the AI would send his Pokemon out in. I assumed he would go into Goodra after Torkoal because it resists both electric and water, but as you'll soon see, that wasn't the case. But enough of that, let's get into the battle. We basically just needed a bit of luck for this fight, and spoiler alert, we got a bit of luck. Torkoal comes out and immediately sets up Drought, which weakens our water-type moves, but Hydro Pump still does enough to take out Torkoal in one hit. Then came Flygon. Hydro Pump doesn't quite take it out even with a crit because of the sun, but it then sets up Sandstorm. We managed to hit another Hydro Pump to finish it off, which is lucky enough in and of itself. Next up was Goodra. Goodra changes the weather to rain as we set up Light Screen. The rain makes Thunder bypass the accuracy check, so we basically just needed to outlast it spamming it repeatedly and not get crit. Sounds easy enough, right? Since Goodra resists both water and electric in general doesn't do so well in this fight, I had taught Rotom Uproar, which I know can be risky, locking Pokemon into multi-turn moves, but, well, it certainly did the trick. It ended up not only taking out Goodra, but continuing and taking out Turtonator as well, since it spends a whole turn setting up Sunny Day. And just like that, Rotom was up against Duraludon. We both Dynamax, and I go for Max Guard to store Raihan and get a bit more healing out of leftovers. Max Geyser then sets up Rain as Duraludon goes for Max Knuckle, though I'm not sure why. The Rain then empowers Max Geyser, almost taking out Duraludon, but it hits back pretty hard with Rockfall. I switched into Toaster as I assumed Raihan was going to heal Duraludon and didn't want to risk losing Rotom. But he didn't, so Toaster took a hit from Dragon Claw, which certainly hurt, but he survived. Toaster then went for Dig and finished off Raihan's team, and we had managed to go through it without any losses. Thank God. Now it was time for some story stuff again. Rose interrupts our final battle against Leon because, shocker, he's a bad guy, and so off we go to the Slumbering World. We meet some weird dogs, grab some old junk, and head off to Hammerlock Stadium, where the end of the world is happening apparently. Rose is there all being evil and stuff, and since Hop sucks, it's now our job to take him down. Rose was a welcome change compared to the stress of the Raihan fight, and was much easier to deal with. I swapped Motor to Rotom Heat before the battle began, and got to work Fire Fanging and Max Flaring Rose's entire team to ash, which worked a treat. Next up was the Apocalypse battle with Eternatus, which was honestly terrifying because I didn't want to lose a Pokemon here of all places, so I just used Boltund and kept going for Dig, so I was basically untargetable half the time while the cool dog anime battle happened above, and well, that also worked a treat. We caught this useless non-electric type Pokemon, and now it was time for the final battle. Leon, the champion of the Galar region, awaited us as our final test. With everyone leveled up to the cap of 65, itemized, and taught the required moves, we stepped out onto the pitch one final time. Leon's team varies depending on what starter you picked, and since Sacrifice to Grookey was our choice back then, Leon's team consisted of Aegislash, Dragapult, Haxorus, Seismitoad, Cinderace, and of course, Charizard. A pretty scary team, but I believed in our squad. I believed they had what it takes to overcome it. Let's do it. Leon starts the battle with Aegislash, and we met it head-on with Amp the Toxtricity. Amp wouldn't make contact with Aegislash and thus wouldn't get ruined by King's Shield. We went ahead and used Snarl, which did a decent chunk and lowered Aegislash's special attack. Amp took a Shadow Ball well thanks to his Assault Vest, but then he missed Snarl. He took down Aegislash the following turn, but had taken quite a beating doing so. Next up was Haxorus. Now, I did make a bit of an error here and didn't account for Mold Breaker when pivoting into Vikavolt, so she took some decent damage from Earthquake. Haxorus would then be going for Outrage against Vikavolt as it was easily its best move, so we went ahead and pivoted into Togedemaru. And this fight right here is where Togedemaru really shines. She tanks a hit from Outrage, living with a little over half HP and heals with leftovers. Knowing that Haxorus is now locked into Outrage, I go for Spiky Shield to protect and also damage and confuse Haxorus in the process. I then used Magnet Rise to dodge the Earthquake, and whilst we didn't get lucky with any confused hits on Haxorus, the combination of Spiky Shield, Ground Immunity, Leftovers, and Iron Tail was more than enough to survive and finally whittle down Haxorus. As I expected, Leon then sent out Seismitoad. A similar strat was employed here as with Haxorus, combining Magnet Rise with Spiky Shield to survive for way longer than I ought to, but ultimately, Togedemaru ended up falling to Seismitoad's Drain Punch. Now there's probably an argument for switching out here so TV survived, but at the end of the day, this is the final battle of the run, and it's not worth jeopardizing, and sometimes sacrifices need to be made. Microwave then came in and finished off Seismitoad with Energy Ball, but not before she was poisoned by Toxic. Leon then opts for Cinderace. Microwave is not in a great spot here and was largely ineffective against Leon's remaining Pokemon. And on top of that, Cinderace is likely to do some serious damage on a switch with Pyro Ball. So, with a heavy heart, I gave a salute to Microwave one final time and locked in an attack knowing full well she would be outsped. A Pokemon that was here since the beginning, fulfilling her destiny and giving her life for the run. Thank you, Microwave. We won't soon forget you. Out came Moto, who had been switched back to Wash Rotom for this fight, who ate a Pyro Ball and then missed a Hydro Pump. Well, it was about time, really. Another Pyro Ball and a successful Hydro Pump later, and Cinderace was down. Leon then sends out Dragapult, the pseudo-legendary Pokemon of the Galar region. Dragapult is powerful and very fast, and unfortunately made quick work of Motor the Rotom. But not before we got off a very, very important light screen. Goodbye, Motor. You were a late but very effective addition to the team. We then went into Amp, who, although below half health, was equipped with an assault vest and now a light screen. With Snarl, we made quick work of Dragapult, and Leon was down to his final Pokemon, Charizard. We had one turn left on light screen at this point, and Charizard's moveset was entirely special. After a quick calc, I knew Amp would be able to survive and do a good chunk of damage to Charizard before eventually falling to G-Max Wildfire's additional chip damage. Rock on, my friend. Rock on. With Charizard on the ropes, it was only fitting that the final blow be dealt by our starter Pokemon. Toasted the Bolton came into battle, and with his strong jaw ready, charged towards the colossal Charizard that stood before him, and with one final Thunderfang, Leon was defeated. And we were the new champion of the Galar region. We had done it. We had made it through the entirety of Pokemon Shield following an electric type only hardcore Nuzlocke. Holy crap! Now that was hard. That took a lot to get through, both in terms of time and just mental fortitude. I never thought I'd have such an experience in the 8th gen games, but I guess life is full of surprises. This was easily the most stressful but most rewarding experience I've ever had playing a Pokemon game, and I mean stressful in a good, thought-provoking way. There was a lot to consider, and my brain had to be turned on all the time, and it really showed when it wasn't. So, there you have it, my second ever Nuzlocke and first hardcore Nuzlocke. I had a lot of fun, and whilst I can't promise there will be too many more monotype runs, I could certainly see more hardcore Nuzlockes on the horizon. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, why not give it a like and share it with a friend? Maybe even subscribe to the channel. I put out new videos whenever I can, and they're usually about Pokemon or Monster Hunter, depending on how I'm feeling at the time. Thank you all as well for the love you gave my previous Nuzlocke video, and if you made it this far without watching that one, why not go and check it out as well? Well, I think that's about it for me this time, folks. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you on the next one. See you later.